Michael Padavic here, Chief Design Officer for StoryBuilt in Austin, Texas, joining us today. Michael, we really appreciate you joining the podcast here for Titus Talent. We're diving into the hiring process, the onboarding process with candidates. Love to hear your insight on what you're really looking for and how you assess that in the interview process to get the right person on your team.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me on, Ben. Appreciate being part of the conversation. First and foremost, we got to look at the qualifications we put out there. We have a pretty good breakdown of the positions that we hire for. And, those come with a certain education and experience levels that allow us to sort of make sure, first and foremost, we're talking to the right people for this role. It's possible, that someone's got a little bit more experience or a little less experience, and there's another role we're looking for. We could move them into. But that's the first thing. But being in the design portion of things and mostly, looking at the architecture side, we also need to give a really close look to work samples, and so we'll get a work portfolio to look through. And there's a lot of stuff in there that candidates will put to show what the kinds of projects they've worked on or their thought process on projects, and that's a really important part of the aspect that we look into when hiring, or sort of seeing whether a candidate's a good fit or not. And then me personally, it's interesting. I'm looking almost as much in terms of like the organization and the formatting of that document to see sort of what are the intangibles. Like, we have to do a lot of diagramming and a lot of presentations internally and externally, and we want people to be able to clearly communicate their design intent. And so I'm looking at the organization of their portfolio and even, the formatting of their resume, just to see if they have an eye on the design and how they put things together.
That's really interesting. And you get a lot of substance to kind of evaluate what they bring to the table from a creativity, execution, presentation standpoint, which is nice. Not every role, right? Architecture is a little bit different than maybe hiring for some other roles. How do you dive into like the culture fit and the team fit, elements of it?
Yeah, those are certainly things that come across in the phone call or the interview process. And right now, we rely heavily on video conferencing for those interviews. It's good to get in front of each other. The technology is good there, so you can share a screen and walk through a presentation. That is really critical part of the process, because somebody, sort of like a football team, can look great on paper, and that you get in front of them and, like more of their personality comes out, and you can just start to get a feel for how they're going to mix with the team, how they're going to fit. But I will say it's important that the cultural fit aspect is a huge part, and sometimes will be the determining factor. Somebody may have a little more experience than another candidate, but if we just get the feel that they're going to be a better fit and they're going to get along better with the team, that personality aspect is a really a strong aspect of what we're looking at.
I think that's so true, right? And you hear the line, you hire people for what they know and you fire them for who they are. And so how you get people that are going to mesh with what your goals and culture and your team objectives are is pretty important. But now you made that hire, right? And now you got this new person's walking into your team. What are you as a team leader doing to onboard them well, to get them to feel a part of the team, get them in rhythm to produce at a high level with you?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we have a pretty good setup in terms of a specific onboarding procedure, and it starts at the central level with the central team, and that we do a cultural onboarding, HR onboarding, a number of centrally focused, IT, technology and tools, like the first morning of somebody joining the team, and I've been involved. We also try to, because we're vertically integrated. So being the chief design officer, I oversee architecture and engineering. But as a vertically integrated team, a company, we have sales and we have marketing, we have sales, we have accounting and finance, development managers, construction, a construction team. We have a lot of different aspects, different people that join. We try to initially get some cross pollination, if you will, between the different teams that first day. So I have done a couple cultural orientations with like somebody from the finance team or somebody from the construction team, and it's good to say, I take them on we take them on a tour of the projects that we've done and talk about how we've grown as a company, and I get to tell them the design side of it and what's important to these projects from a design perspective. And we might have somebody sort of on the construction side walk through those projects with somebody on the design team, and they can talk about what's been important to them from the construction side. So that cross interaction between departments is important. And then from a design team, we have a pretty robust set of meetings that we try to go through, and that we try to cover standards and best practices right out of the box. And because there's ways that every architecture company does things a little bit differently, and us being an architecture team within a development community builder company does things even more differently than your standard sort of third-party delivery. And so we've talked to people about that during the interview, and then we have to show them like how the wheels hit the road there.
What have you, kind of going back to the first two questions, what have you done different? What do you do now with your assessment and onboarding compared to what you did 10 years ago, when you're newer in a leadership role? Like, what have you learned, and what were some of the things that you've adjusted to?
Well, there is I think the thing that's most important for me is keeping an open mind as to how, it's very topical conversation, but how things right now are going with equity and hiring and design and who you're talking to and how you can recruit the most people for these roles and make sure you're being fair